Anybody from the mayor's office on yet?
No, nobody's on yet. You want to give it a few more moments?
We have everybody else, I think, from the
Yes.
committee. Yeah.
We do.
Good afternoon, everybody. I think we're just waiting for the mayor or someone from the mayor's office to join us. Just hold on for a few seconds. Was everybody surprised from their football weekend? A lot of activity going on, huh?
Yes.
I see your team did well.
Thank God.
Yes.
I take it as
He
a
said you're
compliment.
not smiling, my friend. I'm surprised.
I appreciate you waiting till you're recording to ask that question. You know, I went up there. I was in the stadium.
Were you there, really?
Oh, cool.
It was very nice.
It is a great venue. It is one of the best places to watch college football. And no matter who you're pulling for, just being out there is really quite an experience.
Yeah, it was definitely an experience. We had a great time, but
Yeah.
the game. I just wish our team would have known that there was a game this past weekend. It'd have been
Well,
like-
I think it got wrapped up in everything else, the ambiance and all the history and tradition out there is really something. I took my family out for a Southern Cal game many years ago. It was just what a tremendous experience out there. Any word from the mayor's office? Anybody?
I have not, but I can reach out real quick to see what's going on.
I'm checking also.
Okay.
And I'm sure while we're waiting, y'all be happy to know that my football team, my alma mater, had a stunning 17-14 victory this weekend over those pesky Bowdoin Bears. Woohoo. The Mammoths beat the Bears 17-14 to advance to a solid 2-6 record.
How about that?
We're killing it.
My Newberry College Wolves beat Wingate, so they're going to the South Atlantic Championship game this coming weekend. So,
Well, Councilmember Shealy, one of the bowls that South Carolina is predicted to attend is out in Las Vegas.
I saw that,
Yeah.
but
Councilmember Shade, Jennifer said that she is going to call Rick and let him know that we are waiting on him, but if we have a quorum to go ahead and start, since it's going to be a fairly long meeting.
Thank you, Brittany. All right. Good afternoon, everybody. This is November the 7th, 2022. It's a little bit after 2 o'clock. I'm going to call to order the Public Safety Committee meeting and call on Councilmember Mitchell if he would lead us either in a moment of silence or invocation. Councilmember Mitchell.
Okay, instead of invocation, I'm going to do the Psalms from the Bible, which states, "Thus he shewed me, and behold, the Lord stood upon the wall made by a plumb line with a plumb line in his hands. Then saith the Lord, What seest thou? And I said, A plumb line. Then saith the Lord, I'll place a plumb line in the midst of my people Israel, and I'll never again pass them by anymore." So we have heard the words from God that although we are going through many challenges and things, that he will never leave us nor forsake us. So we just have to have the faith to keep going. These are we ask, blessings we ask. Amen.
Amen. Well done. Thank you, sir. The December 6th, 2022 minutes are being deferred, and I'll take a motion to approve. There's some amendments to the September 12th, 2022 minutes.
Move for approval with amendments if there are any.
Have a second. All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Steve Rumlin, I thought I saw you earlier. Are you going to give us a report our update on item number 3, the 2023 JAG OHSJP grant.
We actually have Dave Plesich on the line, and he's going to do that. He's been working on that grant.
All right, Dave, where are you? I saw you a moment ago as well. Hey, Mr.
Good
Mayor.
afternoon. Yes, I have the 2023 JAG grant here. It's approval to submit for the approval of the grant, which we did receive. It'd be $30,000 for 2 multispectral cameras and related equipment.
All right. Is there anything the city contribute to this?
Well, we've got a 10% match, which breaks down into $27,521 that we would get from the government, and we would match $3,059. There is a little bit of room for play there for taxes and shipping, so it might be a tad less than that.
Okay. And these cameras go where?
That would be for our lab. Includes the software, tripod, and a rain kit so that they could be deployed into the field.
All right. I'll entertain a motion to approve item number 3 of the agenda.
Vote for approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any questions for Dave or for the chief regarding this grant? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? The ayes have it. All right, we have one of our favorite people of all time with us today, Amy Birch, with used to be called Turning Leaf, and through a series of events, she's renamed and rebranded her program to Turn 90. And it looks like you've got a special guest behind you, Amy. Is that
I
right?
brought one of my colleagues with me. I feel like y'all always hear from me, so I thought I would bring somebody else in, change it up a little bit, so he's here as my support.
So we usually get a report from Amy as to what is going on with her program. When she started Turning Leaf, Amy, has it been 10 years yet?
It has been 10 years.
About 10 years ago, it was in its early stages, and there were a couple of bumps and turns that she had to maneuver, some realignment. It's been so successful since then, and I understand you expanded a little bit as well. So why don't you give us an update on what's going on with Turn 90?
That sounds good. I'm going to give you all a quick update. I know you have a lot to get through today, but I always appreciate an opportunity to come on. And the city is my dearest and oldest partner. Y'all are my first job partner, my first funding partner. And so I always like to remind you that, because I remind a lot of people that. And I very, very much appreciate the support all these years. So we are now Turn 90. We changed our name as a part of a strategy to expand nationally. We wanted to get a national trademark on the name. Turning Leaf was taken. And so we changed our name last year when we opened our second location, which was a lot to do at one time, but we thought that made the most sense as far as a narrative of our growth. So we just had our 1-year anniversary in Columbia last week, actually. So we've reached our 1-year milestone with the second location, and it's been awesome. It's been really, really cool. We've learned, we've had some bumps in the road again and learned from that, but the program's transferring really, really well. Columbia is actually our larger location, but we have provided transitional employment to 51 people in Charleston this year so far, and 70 in Columbia. So we're up to providing a transitional employment to about 120 men out of prison now between the 2 locations. We provide full-time work, and while the men are working for us, they also are provided therapeutic support and other kinds of wraparound services. And so what we do is we don't make people choose between work and getting other kinds of support. We provide the support while people are working on their work day. And so, I just went back through our data today to just give you guys a couple updates on what people have been doing. So out of the people in Charleston specifically, this year, 5 have enrolled in a CDL program. 5 became compliant with their child support. 7 were able to get their permit or driver's license. 6 were able to establish stable housing. 8 bought cars. 9 began a GED program. And we were also utilized as an alternative to prison for 5 men deferring over 30 years of prison time. So that's just a little snapshot of some of the cool stuff that's happening with the guys that we're working with here in Charleston. And I was just telling the chief this before we got going, we're planning on opening a third location in the upstate as part of a statewide expansion plan. And that will also come with an evaluation. We're probably going to do that in 2024. Next year, we're going to start our first sort of a light lift evaluation, which is called a longitudinal study. We're going to work with some folks out of Berkeley who are really interested in seeing what kind of impact we're having. So hopefully the next time that I'm with you, I'll be able to give you an update, and we're really moving towards validating the program model so it can be a national model. And that's one of the things I'm working really hard to put South Carolina on the map for, and ultimately y'all as our first partner. So with that, I thought I would just let Winard just say a few things about himself, since like I said, you always hear from me and you can hear from somebody else that I work with.
And who's this, Amy?
How you doing?
Amy,
Can we
can
move
you
out of
introduce himself a little bit clearer so we got it for the record?
His name is Winard.
Winard Edie.
Okay.
It's a pleasure to be here. Amy speaks so highly about you guys, so it's a pleasure to be here to speak. I entered, well, first of all, I did 8 years in the federal prison system myself, back in 2012 to 2019-20. I got out, and when I got out, like you said, it was formally Turn a Leaf. So I saw that it was a flyer in a barbershop when I got out, and my cousin told me that it's a good program, so I decided to give it a chance. And like you said, it's one of the best programs that, I mean, anybody could come home to and getting back on their feet, because it doesn't only help you with, it does, you know, the financial gain, it helps you with the thinking side, which you really need. And they help with jobs. And I did go on a job to Molly right down the road. It's called Molly Beer. And they sent me there. I was there for a year. And that's when Amy called me back to come here to be a classroom facilitator. And not only do I, you know what I'm saying, get to have fun and get paid, but seeing the guys also do what I did and to change their way of thinking and they have a better life. That's one of the best things of working here with Turn 90 now.
So you've been here for almost 2 years.
January 4th will be 2 years that I was here working now.
Awesome.
January.
Well done. Congratulations.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
And thank you for taking the time to share your story with us. It's so important, as Amy mentioned, that we hear from our clients and the guys who are participating within the program as well.
Appreciate it.
Any committee members have any questions for Amy, Ms. Edie? Amy, what is the recidivism rate now with?
Yeah, so we measure recidivism personally by rearrest rates. We've always done it that way because it gives us the fastest evaluation for us to understand whether we're really helping people change behavior, since reincarceration can take quite a long time. So we measure rearrest rates. Our rearrest rate has always been somewhere between 20 and 25%. It's at 22 right now. The national rearrest rate is 62. So we've asked outside experts to understand where we should be in terms of having an effective program. And they have always said that if we're anywhere between 20 and 25, there's something happening and it's worth pursuing and evaluating. So we have historically always stayed between that number. We have been able to increase our job retention quite a bit as we've gotten better at running a better business here internally and just giving people better job training and honestly employing people for longer here. And then we've done a better job at helping people get ready. So our job retention rate right now, 99% of our men make it on the job for 30 days or more. And then when it hits 90 days, we're at 96%. And then it goes down to about 70% at 6 months. So we've been able to just improve our job retention over time, which has really helped us because we don't have to do that much work to find job partners.
Chief, I see you get your hand up.
Yes, I just wanted to compliment Amy just publicly. I was talking to her prior to the beginning of our session, and Winard, congratulations on being an active participant, and a big part of your success, I know, is mentoring others and reaching back and like you said, giving people a reason for being successful and a reason for getting a job and being productive. And I've sat in on some of your classes. I'm looking forward to getting back in the next couple of weeks with Amy and some of the team.
Yeah.
And so I just I know you're part of the magic in helping people succeed. So I'm glad that you brought Winard to me, it's amazing, the men that participate and how much they're giving back to others and how active they are and wanting to see everybody succeed and reaching back and mentoring and trying to help each other as part of the training and part of the classroom and part of your field work. So good job.
I appreciate
Thanks,
it.
Chief.
Thank you.
Yeah, our what's so cool is our Columbia location. We have 5 full-time salaried staff there, and 4 of them are program graduates. So we have 1 social worker who's not a grad, but the Columbia Center is completely being run by graduates right now. So it's really incredible. We're sourcing our own talent, and that's becoming part of our model as we expand.
Yes,
Very good.
Mr. Chairman.
Councilmember Mitchell.
Yes, I want to applaud you all too for what you all are doing. When you started with a turning leaf and now it's changed the name, but turn 90. But I remember years ago when I was working way back when with even the Austin Will Society, and we was trying to assist the ex-offenders when they come out, and we had a group home here that they used to come out when they have 6 months left on their sentence, and we used to find them jobs and they work, and they only keep a certain amount of money in their pocket that we give to them, and the rest of the money go in the bank. So once their 6 months is over, all this money that they save goes to them so they can try to get back into the community and get back into society without getting right back into any trouble. But I'm glad you are doing a little differently than that, because you've got a prolonged service going on and keeping mentoring them and counseling with them and having group sessions with them. So that makes a big difference, because I was a counselor for them when they come out of the prison. When we go up to MacDougal and screen them out and have 20 or 40 people, we screen out, and from the 20 or 40, we only can bring 15 or 20 at the home at the time. That was in the city of Charleston. They closed that home because they said it wasn't enough youth coming to that home from the city of Charleston, because they had one in Greenville and one in Columbia. So when they closed that home, that was the end of that particular program. But now I think the Austin Will Society is still out here, I believe. I don't know. I retired so long, so I can't, I don't keep up with things like that anymore. But you all are doing a little more than just that, So I applaud you all for doing it, and I applaud Mr. Edie for what he had gotten into too, and trying to elevate himself, and he's trying to assist others and showing them what could be done if you really want to do it. And so you have to have that mindset that you want to get it and do better for yourself. And that's going to take, I know it takes a lot, but that's what you have to show them, that, hey, I was there, but look at me now. You see, so then and now. So these are the things that I'm applauding you for doing it. Thank you.
Thanks, Councilman. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Mitchell. Any other committee member wishes to add on? Amy, you do such a terrific job, and you get the city support behind you on doing this. Your success is a community success. Giving these men a real opportunity to work and have a support system in place is so critically important from the human side of each individual, and from the community sense. It just helps everybody around, the men that they touch, the families that they touch, and avoiding being rearrested or returned to prison. So thank you all so much for all of that. And
Thank you.
we look forward to another year of getting another positive report from y'all. Thank y'all for joining us.
And our doors are always open if anybody wants to come out for a tour, sit in on a class, meet Winard, and hang out with us for a little while. Check out the print shop, and like I said, doors are open, so just let me know. I'll schedule it.
All right, very good.
Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Thank y'all.
Bye.
God bless. Thank you.
Thank y'all. Very good. It's always good to hear from Amy and Turn 90. It's just one of the more success stories that we have with people who like her, who are striving to make our community a whole lot better. Now I've asked Chief Reynolds to put together his team to give us a report, a discussion on the shooting that took place on King Street earlier this year, back on September the 4th. We've had an update from Chief Reynolds and the department regarding a shooting that took place in May on King Street, and then the Short Street shooting that happened on the east side as well. So these are important updates we received from the police department. I appreciate their transparency with this, the fine work that they do. So Chief, I wanted to sort of tee you up a little bit so you can introduce who's going to take it from here, and what's sort of the plan on this discussion, what happened on September the 4th.
Sure. Thank you, Councilmember. We have a whole lot of work that we've been doing on violent crime. Overall, year to date, we have almost a 6% decrease in violent crime, and our homicides are down almost 36%. And so we have to work really hard to keep it trending in a good direction. Today, what Matt Stanley, who's lieutenant who works in our investigative division, is going to talk about essentially what happened that night, our response that night, and the subsequent investigation that has occurred, who's been arrested and charged, et cetera. And then as a follow-up to Matt is Jason Bruder, Captain Jason Bruder, who oversees our patrol, is going to talk about our footprint on King Street, what we've been doing this year, and what we continue to do to make sure that we're paying very close attention to that area and other parts of the city. And there's a lot of work that we're doing outside of King Street that really, I think at the end, maybe we'll talk more about, that's having a positive effect in mitigating violent crime and putting some of these violent offenders, frankly, in jail. And I'll stop there and I'll let Matt talk about September 4th.
Thank you, Chief, for that intro. Lieutenant Stanley, you're going to give us an overview of the investigation, what happened on the 4th.
Good afternoon, everybody. Yes, I'm the lieutenant over persons crimes here at CPD, and I just want to kind of give you a brief rundown of what happened in the sequence of events. Basically, the shooting occurred September 4th at 12:55 a.m. Saturday night into Sunday morning. During the course of the investigation, detectives determined that two offenders, a 16-year-old juvenile and a 20-year-old adult, were walking King Street the night of the incident. The offenders observed the victim in the area. The victim is known to the adult offender from a previous altercation. Both offenders essentially conspired and waited at the intersection of King Street and Morris Street for the victim to pass by. When he did, the adult offender actually withdrew a firearm, handgun, and shot at him approximately 10 times. The victim was struck multiple times. He went down on the ground, basically withdrew a firearm from his waistband and discharged one round. In addition to him being struck, there were six other bystanders in the area that were also struck. As all of this occurred, a police cruiser was entering that intersection where the shooting occurred. At that point, the officers immediately gave chase to the offenders who were essentially in the mix of a large group. They chased them to the parking lot on Morris Street at the intersection of St. Philip Street. Officers converged on that area and ended up detaining 3 people, one of which was another 16-year-old juvenile who was armed with a handgun, and another 20-year-old adult who was also armed with a handgun. There was also another adult, a 21-year-old, who was associated with these two. They were all interviewed, and at the end of the day, they did not participate in the shooting, but they were charged accordingly with the weapons charges, and the 21-year-old was charged with a disorderly conduct. Based on the follow-up investigation, both offenders were ultimately identified, a 16-year-old juvenile and a 21-year-old adult, 20-year-old adult. They were charged with 1 count of attempted murder, 6 counts of assault and battery of a higher and aggravated nature, and 1 weapons-related charge associated with those 2 charges. So the victim was also charged with an unlawful carry because he also had a handgun, which was recovered from the scene. And at this point, we believe that we have identified all the offenders in the case.
Thank you, Lieutenant. Before I introduce Captain Bruder, any questions from the committee members for Lieutenant Stanley? So I presume the cases are all just pending right now, Lieutenant, right?
That's correct. All the cases are still pending. The adult offender is still incarcerated, and the juvenile offender they're both still incarcerated. So,
were these folks from around the area?
They both have North Charleston addresses.
Very good. Captain Bruder, you want to pick it up from there? We may come back to you in a minute, Lieutenant Stanley.
Mr. Chairman, Councilmember Seekings has his hand up.
Oh, I see. All right, Councilman Seekins. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just very quickly, the victim also had the gun, and I guess was charged with a violation. How old was the victim? I think you're muted. Sorry.
You muted, Lieutenant.
I'm sorry, the victim is 21 years old.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So I didn't see you earlier, Councilmember Seekins.
No worries. Thanks.
All right. Any other committee member?
Let me correct that last. It's the victim is actually 19-year-old.
Very good. All right. Can we move on now to Captain Bruder?
All right, thank you, Councilman Shade. Not a lot new to report on King Street, other than we're moving forward with making it more permanent. I think this body's well aware of the presence we've been having down there as CPD, the fire marshal participation. The most notable thing is in mid-October, permanent signs were placed by TNT on the parking meters down there, restricting parking on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday nights from 6 p.m. to 3 a.m. Parking enforcement has been out each of the last 3 weekends, writing roughly 300 citations, which averages out about 100 per night. We're working on getting some more message boards and stuff down there. That's just a large volume of people still parking in those areas, but we'll continue to work on that to get that message out and people aware of that parking down there. And really the discussion is, and what we're looking at is how to make this more of a long-term plan. This was started in May of 2021 as a pilot program. And clearly this is going to need some presence down there on King Street, especially these Thursday, Friday, and Saturday nights when we have a lot of visitors to the area. So we're looking at more permanent solutions for the traffic pattern, which seems to work. The police presence down there, including some new schedules that we may roll out at the beginning of the year. And just looking for more permanent ways to address this, whether it's through the bid that was recently produced or approved, which may help us increase some lighting and camera options, those types of things, to having working with parking enforcement on some more presence down there, especially in the evening hours. So a lot of work that's been done and a lot of work that continues to be done down there. In the last couple of months, we've had about 75 arrests on King Street over those 3 nights each week. Anything from disorderly conduct and outside agency warrants to unlawful carry of firearms and those types of things. So just kind of a little bit of everything down there, but the officers are trying to be a little proactive and address these disorderly parties before they end up in a large fight down there and stuff like that. So that's the big thing we're working on now, is just keeping that pilot program running until we can get more permanent solutions in place. Coming up the middle of the month, Councilman Seekings has been working on a project with IntelliCheck that is going to be funded and go into effect. I believe that's next Tuesday, the 15th. So I saw the IntelliCheck program.
Jason, I think we're going to push it back a couple weeks just while we get everyone signed up and trained up. So probably November 30th. Meg will have more info on that, but I think that's when we're going to get going on that. Thanks.
All right, sounds good. But again, just more permanent solutions down there. A pilot project for IntelliCheck for the bars down there to see how it can help their businesses down there. So good discussions and good teamwork going on. And that's likely what we're going to need on King Street for moving forward. Just a lot of people down there.
Captain Bruder, I have a couple of just follow-up questions on the numbers you gave us. You said the 300 citations, that covered what period of time?
So they've been ticketing. This past weekend was their 3rd weekend. Their report said 950 total citations over the 3 weekends, and 320 was this past weekend. So it's roughly 100 per night.
What type of citations are these?
These are just
parking.
Yeah, just a parking citation for I don't know if it has exact, but it's restricted parking.
Are the cars being towed, or are they just being cited?
At this point, they're just being cited. Again, we're trying to work on the message boards to get down there. And what we've generally seen is a lot of this is the dinner crowd that's going down there. And it's full. And as they leave, people don't usually replace the parking. So I definitely think the barricades being down there, which is why we're working on some more signage and stuff like down there to help communicate that, and why we haven't started the towing yet. They did tow one vehicle this past weekend, but it was for delinquent fines, not for the violation itself.
And then you mentioned 75 arrests. Is that per night or?
No, so that's in total since September 9th. Just looking at the Thursday, Friday, Saturday between those hours of our detail running at 8 p.m. to 3 a.m. on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday nights into Sunday morning.
What is the largest concentration of crowds down there? What hour do you think?
I mean, it's definitely between 10 and midnight, I would say. 10 p.m. and midnight is when the crowds definitely pick up, and it's that later evening crowd. And so what Lieutenant Stanley gave us the report on the age of the folks who were arrested on the September 4th, 5th evening. Is that generally the age of the crowd that's showing up on a regular basis, you think? It's you definitely have your younger, I would say college age up until the young adults that are down there. You do have some teenagers that are wandering around down there. Now they're not. Some of them try to go into bars with fake IDs, and the places that are better at scanning that they do turn them away there. And then there's just a lot of people just hanging out on the street because it's a popular place to be. So that's where we're still working on that and finding places for these people to be and make sure we're addressing it as they start to congregate and whatnot. Thank you. I see Councilmember Mitchell has his hand up. Councilmember Mitchell.
Yes, I go down there and look at it, and it really, to me, it's a mess. On Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, it's a really mess. It's a crowd down there. I mean, it's a crowd of young people. They pass, even when the bars are closed, they pass my house like 1:30, 2 o'clock, 2:30 at night, and you should hear the noise. You should hear the young people coming by. They're intoxicated, and I'm on King Street, so I can tell you, and they leave there and they go around on Hughes Street, which is a couple of bars around there that they go in. So they go back and forth. And even with the cars, as Captain alluded to, there are a lot of cars on King Street. So I was wondering, even with the, you have some restaurants on King Street, like Halls and a couple of other restaurants, that they still be open. And even when you have the no parking, where do they direct these people to go if they're going into those particular places when they are, going to those particular places like the like Halls and other places? So
yes, sir. Yes, sir. Several months ago, they worked through with the parking division, Peter Rasco, I believe, to do a flat rate since they were restricting some of the spots on King Street. So the parking garage around there are flat rate, and that helps us on a variety of issues. A, it reduces the cost for people having to park there, and B, it allows exiting to be expedited to where people are ready to leave. They can actually leave and not sit in line in a long queue to exit. So that seems to have been working well for the city and for the garages to facilitate that. And so that's where the parking is being directed off of King Street.
And the second question is that even if once this pilot program is over, they start with the towing, that's going to be a mess.
Right.
Because they're still parking there, even though they have it on the signs that they are already not to park there, and they're still doing it. And I passed through there last Saturday past. Cars was up and down both sides of the street, and the signs are there, and I see the parking enforcement officer writing tickets there. But even if you start with a towing, it's going to be a mess. It's going to be, I don't know how we're going to do it, but it's going to be a big mess trying to even get those particular cars, 50, 60, 70 cars off of the street. With the same time you have all this going on. I don't know how we can generate that, or how safely we can get it done safely.
Right, that's where the balance is. I mean, obviously, towing 100 cars is going to create quite a mess down there, even more so than the mess it may be now. So that's where we're trying to get the message out. We're looking at message boards. We're looking at putting up more signs on the back of barricades that we can get that stuff done. But the kind of crux of it is the parking restrictions go into place at 6.
Right.
And our plan goes into effect at 8, where there's the increased presence and the PEOs are coming down there. And that's just that there's a gap there, and we'll just have to, continue to troubleshoot different ways to improve that. I parked with several people that were headed their cars around 9 o'clock a couple weekends ago, and they, I just asked them, I said, hey, why would you park here? And they just said, we just didn't even see the signs, that the signs that are on the meters themselves. So we've been bouncing back some ideas back and forth. They may feel like a $45 ticket is worth parking there. Obviously getting towed is much different, but we're continuing to email back and forth and discuss things with TNT on how to find a good situation before we, I don't even think any of us want to consider what towing 100 cars off of there would look like. So, but we'll continue to work that, and just a work in progress as we continue to make this a permanent solution.
Thank you, Captain.
Councilmember Shealy, Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Seekings. Any further questions? Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, Jason and everybody, thank you for the report, and thank you for all the work you've done, particularly on the Upper King Street corridor. I agree with Councilmember Mitchell. It's a mess, but it's a whole lot better than it was, and it keeps getting better every weekend. And I would encourage members of this committee, by giving advance notice to some police officers, to go up there and take a look and see what it's like on a Friday and Saturday night between 10 and 12. It's quite a scene. But we've made a huge amount of progress up there. I think the one-way traffic's really helped. I don't think we're going to have to tow 100 cars at a time. I think if we tow a few at a time, the message will get out there, and eventually we'll flush those cars out of there. One of the questions I've got, and I don't know if it's easy to do, if it's not a huge deal, but I'd be interested to know of the 75 arrests in the King Street corridor, how many of those are of people under the age of 20? Because from my eye, and I've been out there a whole lot lately, there's a huge youth contingency on the street, and they're not there to go to bars. They're not there to go to restaurants. So they're just to hang out. And I'd be interested to see, sort of on our arrest records, how much time you all spend arresting people who otherwise have no great reason for being on Upper King Street after 9 or 10 o'clock at night. So that would be great if you could do that.
I do not have that right offhand, but I can certainly
I know.
hold and check back with you.
Great, thanks.
And Captain Brute, if you could do that over an extended period of time, not just a one night or one weekend scenario, but the point that Councilmember Seekings is making, I agree with.
Well, I think those 75 arrests are over a course of time, so that'll be a pretty good insight. It wasn't one night; it was a course of time, number of arrests.
Correct.
So I'll pull both, send it to the members of this group, and then for this 75 that we're referencing here, just to keep it clear, and I'll put the time frame in there and everything like that. And then if we want to go further back and look at some comparisons, we certainly can look at that too.
Some of the suggestion and discussion have been floating around about whether or not we needed to impose a curfew for certain people underage. What do you gentlemen think about an idea of a curfew?
Councilmember, I can tell you that I think it's something that we should consider. I know that in the past, we decided not to do it for, I think, a lot of good reasons. There was a lot of people in the community who didn't like the idea. But I'll tell you, to Councilmember Seeking's point, to the people that were involved in this shooting, to the arrests that we've made, there is no reason for people to be downtown other than, those exceptions which would be made in any ordinance that we might create. Past 10 o'clock or past midnight, there's different versions of curfew. I've seen it work in other jurisdictions. We've looked around the country a little bit in the last few months and have some areas that we can cite where it has worked. And I know that there's some fear that it may disproportionately impact different groups of people. So those are all discussions that we need to have. But I'll tell you, there's no reason for a 16-year-old, I'll tell you in the city, just in general, we've had 9-year-old, 10-year-old, 13-year-old, 15-year-old shot. And we have young people hanging out on King Street, certainly under the age of 21, and in some cases, teenagers, and in some cases, young teenagers. This happened at 12:55 a.m. And one of the people it involved was a 16-year-old juvenile. They have no business being on King Street. There's other than if somebody is employed, has a job, if they're out with their parents, maybe having dinner or family. But otherwise, I think it's something that we should consider, but we have to have support for it if we're going to do it.
I know it's a little bit of a touchy question, but I wanted to raise it again. Councilmember Seekings.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just sort of briefly follow up. The reason I asked the question about the arrest statistics is because I will tell you from my eye, walking on Upper King Street the last few weekends, there are a large number of unaccompanied, not employed in the local businesses, very underage people up there. And it's just an increasingly obvious thing to me. And I think to others who've been up there. And Chief, if we put together numbers and statistics, I think there will be some support for taking some action to make sure that we don't have an added element of trouble for your team that are already facing a lot of challenges in that corridor. And again, really young kids on that street after 10 or 11 o'clock at night, it's problematic. And so I'd be very, very interested to see those numbers and, sort of have this conversation.
Thank you, sir. Councilmember Mitchell, did you want to chime in on something else?
Yeah, I would have to look at it very seriously when we do the, even thinking about the curfew, because once you're living in, I understand fully that something needs to be done, even with the young people, but me living in this town right there where there's a college campus and college kids, they're all over the city of Charleston. And that's what the number of people that you see there on King Street. And it's just facts, it's just facts. I've been living there on this King Street for 37 years. I can tell you it's facts. When you go down there, it's a lot of college kids and a lot of kids that's coming from Somerville, St. Stephen's, all over, just to come down because of the entertainment district. And they're teenagers, 19, 18, 19, 20, but they're right at the college of Charleston or other colleges. So I don't want to put a big strain on the police department and have another big problem going on, even with the police department, because they're the one going to hit the raft if this come down anyway. And so I'm gonna have to look at this very seriously when it comes to a curfew. I thought about a curfew at one time at 12 o'clock for youth, teenagers with a certain age. And I thought about that a couple of times too, but you have to be a serious thought about that, even when you're looking at it and doing it, But I know I was young one time myself, but it's a little different, because if you go down there and see what's happening, and it's a lot of young people, I'm telling you, it's a lot of young people. It's not no 10 or 20. You're talking about hundreds. So we have to really think about that very carefully, because it'll be a tragic thing that's happening even with this community too, and even with the young people that's there. Because I don't want to be locking up all of them because they're teenagers, and how are you going to stop them to find that if they're teenagers or not, and how the police department going to even be able to do it. So it's a lot of moving parts, and then you have to really think about it very seriously. That's all I'm saying.
I agree with you, Councilman Mitchell. It's a lot of moving parts, as you said. And if we further this discussion over curfew, it has to be, as the chief said, supported by the community, by city council. I don't think we're talking about doing anything anytime soon, but I just want to keep the discussion available. As I understand, I can't remember who mentioned this, but most of those young people are just literally hanging out. They're not patronizing. They're too young to go into a bar. They don't have the right credentials getting into some of these establishments. So they're just hanging out. They're just being on the street. Because that's where their friends are hanging out, I suspect, as well. So it's something to consider, and it's something to keep the discussion going on. Yes, sir, Chief.
I would just add, when we look at the data, and we've gotten some of the data from Meg, there's millions, literally millions of visitors, even just since September when this happened to today. And it's a very, very safe place to be. Our burden, our responsibility is to keep it that way, right? And that's why we're having this conversation, because we need to work hard to make sure that we keep it that way. And so incrementally, we're heading in the right direction. As I think Councilmember Seeking said, we've been working on this for a couple of years on a lot of different little tweaks. And I think each one of these tweaks that we've made has helped. It's something that we need to get all the businesses involved in and all of our partners within the city. It's certainly not a police-centric responsibility. It's all of our responsibility. I do believe things like a curfew, and maybe we start it at midnight. Maybe we limit it to, just 2 or 3 days a week and just that business area. Maybe we don't do it, but I do think it's something we should be talking about. We should be considering because we know that there's people out there after midnight till 2 or 3 in the morning. I will tell you, just as feedback for some of the late night food ordinances, things that have been implemented, it's working. The things that you have supported us on, there's been a lot of good, healthy debate about. We're all about trying to find the right balance. So far, each one of those things, the way that they've been done, and I know there was a lot of discernment, a lot of discussion, a lot of debate about each one. I will tell you that they're working and they're making a difference. And we need that type of support to keep it safe and to keep our businesses thriving. And I know that safety is the most important factor to achieving that.
Yep, I agree with you, Chief. And let's keep our options open. Like I said, we've had a shooting at sort of the beginning of the summer and then this one towards the end of the summer, the traditional summer season. So it's just somewhat concerning, but I appreciate the report. You have said a couple of times that King Street's a safe place to be, but we do have a little bit of a mess in our hands still with the influx of these young folks out there. So we've got to keep up the discussion. We're here to be supportive of the police department and the efforts that y'all are making. We very much appreciate those men and women out there doing their jobs. But let's keep talking and keep checking in every so often. And maybe the next time we have an update is not because we had a shooting, it's just an update because you got some more positive news to tell us. And we're hoping in the right direction. Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And as the chief mentioned, there are literally millions of people in the year's time going up and down King Street. What we're dealing with is a relatively small number of really bad actors. And young people can be very good people, fine people, but the trick is to weed out the bad actors. And one strategy we're putting in place, thanks for your work on this, Councilmember Seekings, is to better the scrutiny of fake IDs. Maybe some young people aren't going down there to try to get in the bars, but certainly some of them are. And by having that tool put in place soon, I think every little tool like that helps. I want to thank Lieutenant Stanley and Bruder and the entire police department for the increased efforts that they've put into focusing on Upper King and our entertainment district and central business district, and the fact that they were right there when some bad actors behaved so badly. And then the follow-up forensics and detective work was truly excellent to apprehend everyone involved and make those arrests. And I'm really glad to hear that, unlike some of the other cases recently, that these two particular bad actors are still incarcerated and still in jail. I did have a couple of questions, Lieutenant Bruder, of those 75 arrests, I was just curious how many were gun related, and is there any trend to those as to the age of folks that were holding illegal guns, carrying them, and the time of evening that they might have occurred? And I understand you might not have that information with you right now, but I was just curious if there were any trends there. So that's one question. And then somewhat unrelated, but they're all tools in the toolbox. I did want to ask y'all's opinion, and admittedly it was earlier in the evening. During Moja we had that one event where we closed a small portion of Upper King to traffic in both directions, which kind of disrupted those who might be, quote, cruising the street. And I'm just curious, I know that there's been a lot of discussion about even doing that at all. We finally did it. Most people that went out that evening thought it was a really nice experience. Of course, we had some family-oriented events, some music and all like that was going on, and people seemed to like it. I'm just curious whether you would think that could be a tool in our toolbox more occasionally, to take a small section and stop traffic in both directions. I guess that's for anybody that
Yeah,
wants.
Chief or Captain Bruder would.
Yeah, I'll let Jason talk about I think anything's possible. And that night that you're referencing, the Jazz Festival, was, I got compliments across the board from so many different people. It was so positive. I think the biggest question for us is it does require additional resources, substantial resources. And I'll tell you just generally, and this is probably a reason to really hit a strong pause button, is to the impact on our resources is significant. We have a lot of other events throughout the year, and we have a lot of just this past weekend maybe is a good example. We were not able to staff all of the events. I just met with Jason and talked to him about this earlier. We had things, Citadel football game, we had the parade, we had an event at Credit One Stadium, actually Friday and Saturday night. We had so many other things, too many to list. And I had to get people from Mount Pleasant. Actually, the majority of some of those were staffed by Somerville and other outside agencies. And so the feedback was positive. The event was hugely positive. Just the ability for us to do it, I guess we just have to have that conversation about how we implement that.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, the only thing I'll add to that is I'm interested to see how the one coming up is going to go, where we're just closing off Ann Street in the same area, but we're leaving King Street open. Because to me, that one's a much more manageable from a manpower. I'm sure it won't be the same as being on King Street, but it's going to have very much that same feel of being downtown and then seeing how that rolls there. So I think we'll have a good discussion between one that takes 15 to 20 officers to staff, and then with the full road closure on King Street versus I think about 6 to 8 officers on Ann Street itself. So we have heard nothing but positive events of that. Like Chief said, it's definitely, especially when we have that rolling right into on a Thursday night, the detail we have in place starting at 8 o'clock at night. So
thank you.
And I'll work on those other numbers you mentioned in the beginning as well.
Thank you, sir.
All right. But we appreciate the update on this thing. I think we do need to sort of keep our attention focused on what is happening on King Street, Chief, and we'll ask for maybe a periodic review. Yes, sir.
I promise I'll keep it brief. Since we're meeting Public Safety Committee, it's relevant to this topic, and it's something that's, I think, worthy of recognition. We had 18 people graduate on Friday from the Criminal Justice Academy, 16 actually in person, and 2 other delayed a couple weeks. Of the 16 that graduated, most of them are going to King Street, Team 9, Team 1 on the peninsula, and some other units that I think are going to add great value. They won every single award that is possible. We actually had one of our officers, I gave a message there to the graduating class. We had an officer give the invocation benediction from our department. We had they have a lead officer that kind of runs the class leader, and every single award that they could get, they won. They swept the awards. And I say that just to mention the quality of people that we're hiring, the quality of people that are graduating, that are going out into our communities. I just swore in an officer today that was a lateral from another department who had several years experience, African-American male who was just so happy to be here, and great attitude, big smile, and just excited to be a part of this city. So I just wanted to celebrate that because that actually ties into a lot of what we're doing. And that's a great, great event to kind of talk about.
Thanks for that, Chief. All right. I do just want to follow up, maybe on a period, another quarter, first of the year, perhaps, on where we're headed, what the numbers look like, and any progress we're making, and continue keeping this conversation available. I appreciate all the work that y'all are doing, Lieutenant Stanley, Captain Bruder, and the men and women who are working with y'all. Thank you so much for all their fine work. And we'll take you up on the invitation from Councilmember Seeking's remark and call you out, and we'll set up a time to go out there on a Friday or Saturday night, so we get a firsthand look at what is actually transpiring. I've been out there before. It's been quite a while since the last time I was out there walking around to what was occurring. So I'll take you up on that opportunity as well at some point. There'll be no further business. We're about 30 minutes ahead of schedule, which is going to make everybody in the clerk's office happy. I think give us a little bit of a breather. So we'll see some of you at our 3:30 real estate meeting. Other than that, thank y'all and have a pleasant rest of the afternoon. Thank y'all very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.